I was actually had been out that night with a buddy of mine. A couple of guys came up and got me from behind.
The judge hit his hammer 3 times. The courtroom went quiet. Richard Rawlings, the famous car guy from TV, sat still as the judge said he had to go to prison for 15 years. No getting out early for 10 years. The king of car TV shows had fallen down hard. This isn't just another story about a famous person getting in trouble. This is about one of the biggest car scams in history. It was hidden under bright TV lights and loud car engines. For years, millions of people watched Fast and Loud on TV. They thought they were seeing real car deals, but they were really watching the biggest car trick ever done. The story starts not with police cars or handcuffs, but with something boring but scary. Papers that didn't match up. In late 2023, tax people came to check Gas Monkey Garage's money records. This normal check would find a crime business that had been running for almost 10 years. Millions of fans had no idea. Richard Rawlings wasn't just buying and selling cars. He was making up fake stories about cars and selling dreams that weren't real. The man who said he was honest was living a huge lie. When that lie finally broke apart, it would destroy not just his business, but make people stop trusting car dealers everywhere. Think about this. A secret room hidden deep inside Gas Monkey Garage. No signs on the door and always locked. Inside were machines that could stamp fake car numbers, welding tools, and a place to make fake papers that could fool even smart car collectors. This wasn't a car shop. It was a crime lab pretending to be America's favorite car place. The trick was careful and scary. Normal old cars would go into this hidden room as regular cars and come out as million-dollar rare cars. They had fake histories, fake ownership papers, and car numbers that only existed in Rawlings' imagination. The scariest part? Many of these fake car treasures were shown on TV and sold to fans who thought they were real. But every criminal business has a weak spot. Rawlings' weak spot would be one car that would expose everything. A 1967 Shelby GT500 sold for $1.2 million to a car collector in Europe. This car would be the string that unraveled the whole operation. The buyer was a longtime fan of the show and trusted Rawlings completely. He had watched Gas Monkey for years and believed in the passion. That trust would be broken in the worst way possible. When the collector tried to get insurance for his expensive car, the truth came out like a knife. The car's ID number was fake. The build sheet was a lie. The crown jewel of muscle cars was really just a regular Mustang worth less than $200,000. The collector's sad story, played in court, would make grown men cry and seal Rawlings' fate forever. The tax check that started it all was supposed to be normal. Tax people were looking for small mistakes in money reports, the kind of paper errors that happen in any business. Nobody expected to find a criminal plan that crossed country borders and involved millions of dollars in fake deals. But the numbers didn't lie. Business costs that didn't match what they said they were doing. Fancy plane trips disguised as car transport costs. Personal cars listed as for sale but never actually sold. And worst of all, overseas money deals that were never reported to the government. What looked like neat bookkeeping was actually a carefully built fake front hiding something much worse. The big break came when tax people found a ghost car number. This was a car ID number that shouldn't exist. This particular number was attached to a supposed rare restored car sold for over $400,000. It didn't match any known car factory records. It was a phantom that would lead investigators down a hole of lies that went back almost 8 years. Following this ghost car number, investigators found a web of fake companies, hidden money transfers, and forged papers that would make a spy story jealous. What had started as a simple tax check had grown into a federal investigation involving wire fraud, mail fraud, and conspiracy charges that could mean decades in prison. The raid on Gas Monkey Garage was like something from a movie. Federal agents didn't just find the usual tools and classic cars you'd expect in a car shop. They found proof of a planned operation designed to trick buyers on a huge scale. The secret room, which workers called the cage, was filled with equipment that looked more like a counterfeiting operation than a real business. Inside this hidden room, investigators found laser engraving tools, expensive printers, and car number stamping kits that could create ID numbers that looked just like factory originals. But the real smoking gun was the document forgery station. It had templates for dealer invoices, build sheets, and old ownership records that could fool even the smartest collectors. Former workers who finally spoke up painted a picture of a man who had crossed the line from passionate car lover to calculating criminal. They described how Rawlings controlled every part of the operation. He held the only master key to the secret room, while the real business and TV filming happened in plain sight. The most scary testimony came from a former worker who tried to raise concerns about the illegal activities. According to court papers, Rawlings allegedly told him, "If you can't handle this part of the business, you're in the wrong game." The worker quit shortly after, but his story would become important evidence in the federal case. The government's case was built on more than just physical proof. They had something even more powerful: Richard Rawlings' own words, broadcast to millions of viewers every week. Fast and Loud wasn't just entertainment. It was an elaborate marketing scheme for fake cars, and the prosecution would use the show's own footage to prove their case. In one devastating courtroom moment, prosecutors played clips from Fast and Loud side by side with expert testimony about fake car numbers and forged documents. The jury watched Rawlings bragging about unicorn finds and miracle deals, while experts explained how impossible these discoveries really were. The show that had made him famous was now being used to convict him. The European collector's story became the emotional heart of the trial. Unable to travel because he was sick, his sworn statement was played in full for the jury. His words, filled with betrayal and disappointment, cut through the courtroom like a blade. "I believed in Richard," he said, holding up the original purchase agreement. "Now I see he was acting the whole time." The collector had recorded voicemails from Rawlings promising the car was real. He used phrases like 100% verified from my private network and "I would never stake my name on a fake." But that's exactly what he had done, and the jury could hear the lies in his own voice. As the trial went on, the full size of the operation became clear. This wasn't just about changing car numbers or creating fake paperwork. Rawlings had used his celebrity status as a weapon. He used his TV platform to make fake authenticity and sell lies to unsuspecting fans around the world. Car historians and car number specialists testified about how impossible Rawlings' supposed finds were. Former factory workers explained how the discovered cars couldn't have existed as described. With each expert witness, the carefully built image of Richard Rawlings as a brilliant car finder crumbled into dust. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They showed how the secret forgery operation had been running for at least 6 years. They had internal emails, equipment purchases, and surveillance footage from neighboring businesses as proof. The evidence painted a picture of a man who had systematically betrayed the trust of his fans and the car community. But perhaps the most damaging evidence came from the show itself. Prosecutors showed how Fast and Loud had been used as a marketing tool for fake cars. They had staged discoveries and scripted finds designed to create artificial demand. The passion and authenticity that viewers believed in was revealed to be nothing more than carefully crafted fiction. The defense tried to paint Rawlings as a passionate but careless businessman who was too trusting rather than criminal. They argued that he was a victim of his own success, overwhelmed by the demands of running a TV show and business empire. But the evidence was too overwhelming, the pattern too clear, the deception too calculated. When the verdict was read after just 6 hours of thinking, the courtroom erupted. Guilty on all 18 counts: wire fraud, mail fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy. The man who had built an empire on car passion was revealed to be nothing more than a sophisticated criminal who had exploited the trust of millions. The sentencing was swift and merciless. 15 years in federal prison with no possibility of getting out early for the first decade. As Judge Alanir Simmons delivered the sentence, something broke inside Richard Rawlings. The man who had faced down cameras and crowds with swagger and confidence simply collapsed. His body went limp as the reality of his situation hit him. The courtroom watched in stunned silence as Rawlings fell face first into the table. His ex-wife screamed. His friends tried to reach him but were blocked by U.S. Marshals. It took 7 minutes and a medical team with oxygen before he could even move. The rock star of car TV was wheeled out on a stretcher with an oxygen mask covering his face. He was the image of a man who had lost everything. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Within hours of the verdict, major auction houses like Barrett Jackson and Mecum announced immediate investigations into any cars previously sold through Gas Monkey Garage. Cars that had once been crown jewels of collections were now under suspicion. Their values dropped overnight. Private collectors who had proudly owned Gas Monkey originals suddenly went quiet. Some demanded refunds. Others quietly pulled their cars from upcoming auctions. Insurance companies froze policies and recalled cars for reevaluation. One executive called it the largest classic car authenticity collapse in the last 25 years. Discovery Channel moved with corporate precision, cutting all ties with Rawlings within 72 hours. Fast and loud episodes vanished from streaming platforms. Spin-off shows were canceled. Merchandise was pulled from shelves. The empire that had taken decades to build was erased in a matter of days. The Richard Rawlings story is more than just another celebrity downfall. It's a warning story about the power of fame, the vulnerability of trust, and the devastating consequences when authenticity becomes a weapon for deception. For years, millions of viewers believed they were watching genuine car passion. Instead, they were witnessing one of the most sophisticated fraud operations in TV history. The man who preached about the soul of classic cars had sold his own soul for profit. The enthusiast who claimed to preserve car history had actually been destroying it. He was creating fake legends and false heritage that would take years to untangle. His legacy isn't the cars he claimed to save, or the passion he pretended to embody. It's the trust he shattered and the community he betrayed. As Richard Rawlings begins his 15-year sentence, the car world continues to deal with the aftermath of his deception. Collectors question their purchases. Auction houses implement new authentication procedures. An entire industry works to rebuild the trust that one man's greed had destroyed. The Gas Monkey Garage scandal will be remembered not just for its scale or sophistication, but for the reminder it provides about how fragile authenticity is in an age of manufactured celebrity. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room is the one with the most to hide. Sometimes the most passionate performance is just that, a performance. The king of cars fell from his throne, but the real tragedy isn't his downfall. It's the dreams he sold that never existed, the trust he exploited, and the authentic passion he corrupted in service of his own greed. In the end, Richard Rawlings didn't just defraud collectors and fans. He defrauded the very culture he claimed to celebrate. He left behind a legacy of broken trust and shattered authenticity that will take years to repair.